Hi everyone. Before I start this video, make sure that you're a part of my Discord server by joining the link in the description box below. And in this video, we'll be going over A-Level Accounting 2024 May-June Paper 2-3 question number 4. This is Paper 2, which consists of 4 questions. 2 of them will be of 15 marks and 2 of them will be of 30 marks, and the total time limit for this paper is 1 hour and 45 minutes. Since question number 4 is of 30 marks, ideally you should be spending about 35 minutes in order to solve this question, and in this video as well we'll be attempting to solve it under 35 minutes. So without any further delay, let's get started. J Limited is a manufacturing company. Recently, the directors decided to change the costing system from marginal costing to absorption costing. For the first part, we need to explain each of the following terms used in absorption costing. The first one is allocation. So allocation is when the overhead expenses are directly attributed to a specific cost center. Let's write it down. Overhead expenses are directly attributed to a specific cost center. Then for the second one, we have apportionment. Apportionment is when the overhead expenses are shared between different departments by using a suitable basis. Let's write it down. Overhead expenses are shared between different departments by using a suitable basis. That is all for the first part. Let's move towards the next one. We have been given additional information. The factory has 2 production departments, preparation and finishing. There are 2 service departments, stores and canteen. Some overheads have already been allocated to departments. The following budgeted overheads for the year ended 31st March 2024 have yet to be apportioned. So we have the overhead for electricity and rent, and this is yet to be apportioned to the departments. For electricity, a suitable basis for apportionment would be power, which is kilowatt hours. Let's take a look at our question first. We need to complete the table to show the apportionment of the budgeted overheads for the year ended 31st March 2024. And the first one is electricity. Okay, so we need to divide electricity or apportion electricity among the different departments. And our basis is power. So the first thing we need to do is calculate the total of our basis. Let's do that. That will be 32,000 plus 8,000 plus 400 plus 1,600. This results in the value of 42,000. Now we just divide it. So for the preparation department, the apportionment of electricity will be the total. We always start with the total overheads. Then we just multiply it by the appropriate fraction, which in this case is 32,000 out of the total of the 42,000. So 32,000 divided by 42,000, which results in 48,000. So this is the apportionment of electricity towards the preparation department. Let's write it down. We have 48,000 for preparation. Then we repeat the same process for finishing. So that will be 63,000 times 8,000 divided by 42,000, which results in the value of 12,000. Let's write it down. Then we repeat the same process for stores. That will be 63,000 times 400 divided by 42,000, which results in the value of 600. Then for canteen, that will be 63,000 times 1,600 divided by 42,000, which results in the value of 2,400. Now we need to repeat the same process for rent. Okay, a suitable basis for rent will be floor area. Again, the first step is to calculate the total. So that will be 2,400 plus 1,800 plus 50 plus 150, which results in 4,400. Now let's repeat the same process. For preparation, that will be 44,000 times 2,400 divided by 4,400. This results in the value of 24,000. For finishing department, that will be 44,000 times 1,800 divided by 4,400, which results in the value of 18,000. Then for stores, that will be 44,000 times 50 divided by 4,400, which results in 500. And for canteen, that will be 44,000 times 150 divided by 4,400, which results in the value of 1,500. Now we need to calculate the total overheads. So total overheads is just going to be the sum of overheads allocated plus electricity plus rent. Okay, for the preparation department, that will be 184,800 plus 48,000 plus 24,000, which results in 256,100. For finishing department, that will be 60,800 plus 12,000 plus 18,000, which results in 90,800. For stores, that will be 10,960 plus 600 plus 500, which results in 12,060. And for canteen, that will be 16,260 plus 2,400 plus 1,500, which results in 20,160. Now we need to apportion canteen. So the total for canteen is 20,160, and a suitable basis of apportionment will be the number of employees. So that will be 64 plus 40 plus 8, which results in 112. Now for the preparation department, we start with a total of 20,160 multiplied by 64 and divided by 112. This results in the value of 11,520 for the preparation department. Now for finishing department, that will be 20,160 times 40 divided by 112, which results in the value of 7,200. For stores, that will be 20,160 multiplied by 8 divided by 112, which results in the value of 1,440. Since we have now apportioned this amount into the remaining departments, we can subtract it from canteen. Okay, now we need to calculate subtotal. It is just going to be the sum of total overheads and canteen apportionment. So for the preparation department, that will be 256,100 plus 11,520, which results in 267,620. For finishing department, that will be 90,800 plus 7,200, which results in 98,000. For stores, that will be 12,060 plus 1,440, which results in the value of 13,500. And for canteen, that will be 0. Now we need to apportion stores. So now we need to divide the 13,500 among the production departments. A suitable basis will be issues from stores. The first step is to calculate the total. That will be 600 plus 250, which results in 850. Now the amount that we need to divide is 13,500. So for the preparation department, that will be 13,500 times 600 divided by 850. And this results in the value of 9,529.41. We can just round it off. So that will be 9,529. Let's write it down. 9,529. We then repeat the same process for finishing department. So that will be 13,500 times 250 divided by 850. This results in the value of 3,970.59. We can round it off. So that will be 3,971. Let's write it down. 3,971. Since we have apportioned this amount from stores, we just need to subtract the exact same amount here. Then we can calculate the subtotal again. That will be the sum of previous subtotal and the stores apportionment. So for preparation department, that will be 267,620 plus 9,529, which results in the value of 277,149. We repeat the same process for finishing department. That will be 98,000 plus 3,971, which results in 101,971. And for stores, that is just going to be 0. That is all for the second part. Let's move towards the next one. We have been given some additional information. The following budgeted information is available for the two production departments for the year ended 31st March 2024. We now need to calculate. We have been given the machine hours and the labor hours. And we need to calculate to 2 decimal places the overhead absorption rate for each production department for the year ended 31st March 2024. In order to calculate the overhead absorption rate, we just choose the higher of machine hours and labor hours. Let's figure that out first. For preparation department, clearly the machine hour is higher, so we'll use this value. And for finishing, clearly labor hours is higher, so we'll use this value. Okay, let's calculate it for preparation department. We need to start with our total overheads that we calculated in the previous part, which is right here for preparation. That is 277,149. Then we just need to divide it by the higher of the machine hours and labor hours. In this case, we've already figured out that machine hour is higher, so that will be 17,500. Now it gives the overhead absorption rate for preparation department to have the value of 15.84. And we need to specify whether it is based on machine hours or labor hours. So this will be per machine hour. We then repeat the same process for finishing department. So we start with our total overheads, which we calculated right here, 101,971. Then we need to divide it by the hire of the machine hours or the labor hours, which in this case is labor hours of 20,300. And this will give the overhead absorption rate for finishing department to have the value of 5.02. And this is per labor hour. That is all for the third part. Let's move to the next one. We have been given additional information for the year ended 31st March 2024. Actual hours for the preparation department were as follows. Total actual overheads were the same as budgeted overheads. Now we need to calculate the over-absorption or under-absorption of overheads for the preparation department for the year ended 31st March 2024. In order to calculate the over-absorption or under-absorption, we just need to compare the actual overheads to the budgeted overheads. And in this case, we know that the total actual overheads were the same as the budgeted ones above. So let's write down the actual overheads first. So it is just going to be 277,149. 277,149. Then we need to calculate the budgeted overheads. And don't get confused here. For the budgeted overheads, we can just write down the total amount that we calculated in the second part. We actually need to adjust it so that it reflects the actual hours. So we will use our overhead absorption rate and multiply it by the respective actual hours. In this case, we're talking about preparation department. Overhead absorption rate was 15.84 and this was per machine hour. Okay, so we have 15.84 and the actual machine hours is 16,920. This way we'll get the adjusted budgeted overheads, and this results in the value of 268,012.8. Okay, now we just need to compare. In this case, clearly the actual overheads is greater than the budgeted overheads. Whenever that takes place, we will get under absorption because the budgeted overhead is lower. So in this case, we have under absorption. And for the value, we just need to calculate the difference between these two. So that will be 277,149 minus 268,012.8. This results in the value of 9,136.2. That is our under absorption for the preparation department. That is all for the fourth part. Let's move towards the next one. We have been given additional information. An order has been received from a customer. The following information is available. So we have the direct materials expense. We have been given information regarding direct labor. So for preparation department, we require 52 hours at 12.20 per hour. So the total is just going to be 52 times 12.2 because this will give us the direct labor rate for 52 hours. This results in the value of 634.4. We repeat the same process for finishing department, 90 hours at 14.5. So that will be 90 times 14.5, which results in 1,305. Then we have been given the machine hours for both the departments. We are also told products are sold so as to achieve a gross margin of 50%. So gross margin of 50% just means that from the selling price, 50% will be our profit and 50% will be our cost. Okay. Now we need to calculate the selling price for this order. In order to do so, let us first calculate our cost. So we can start with the direct material, which was given above. That is just going to be 800. Then we can write down our direct labor as well. We've already calculated it before for the preparation department. And the finishing department. Okay. So for preparation department, that will be 634.4, whereas for finishing department, that will be 1,305. So 634.4, 1,305. Then we also need to include the overheads for both the preparation department and finishing department. And in order to calculate this overhead, we will be using our overhead absorption rate. Let's take a look above. For the preparation department, it was 15.84 per machine hour. So we need to multiply this rate to the machine hour given in our additional information. So that is just going to be 140 hours. So the value is just going to be 140 times 15.84. And this will give the overhead for preparation department to have the value of 2217.6. We then repeat the same process for finishing department. For finishing department, the overhead absorption rate was 5.02 and this was per labor hour. So we need to multiply it to the labor hour given below. And we need to take a look at the direct labor section now for finishing department. The labor hour is 90. So our overhead is just going to be 90 times 5.02. This results in the value of 451.80. Now we will get the total cost. That is just going to be 800 plus 634.4 plus 1305 plus 2217.6 plus 451.8, which results in 5408.80. Now we need to add profit to this so that we get the selling price. And for the profit, we will use the gross margin as our basis. In this case, we can see that 50% is the profit and 50% is the cost, which means that profit and cost will be equal. So we can just write down the cost value as our profit as well. And for the selling price, we will just add these two together. So that will be 5408.8 plus 5408.8, which results in the value of 10,817.6. That is all for the fifth part. Let's move towards the next one. We have been given additional information. It has been suggested that the company would benefit if it switched to a just-in-time method of inventory control. We need to advise the directors whether or not they should switch to a just-in-time method of inventory control. We need to justify our answer by considering both the financial as well as non-financial factors. Okay. So this is of 7 marks, which means that 1 mark will be reserved for our decision. 3 marks will be for the JIT method of inventory control and 3 will be for against the JIT method of inventory control. So we can just categorize it as advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the advantages first. The very first advantage of using JIT method of inventory control is that it will improve cash flow because less money will be tied up in inventory, because we will only purchase inventory at the time of need. We will not store it so that the money will not get tied up into inventory. Let's write it down. Improved cash flow as less money tied up in inventory. For the second advantage, we can write down reduced storage cost because, like I said before, we will only be purchasing any materials at the time of need, which means that we will not be storing it for a longer period of time. So reduced storage cost. Then the third advantage will be that there will be less chance of wastage or less chance of the goods being damaged. Let's write it down. Less chance of wastage or goods being damaged. So these are the advantages. Now let's move towards the disadvantages. The very first disadvantage of using a JIT method of inventory control is that we will immediately need the supply of inventory at the time of need, which means that we need to rely on the efficiency of the supplier. Let's write it down. Over-reliance on a supplier. Then the second disadvantage is that there will be risk of interruptions to production if there are any delivery delays from the supplier's end. Let's write it down. Risk of interruptions to production if delivery delays. Then for the third disadvantage, we can write down the increase in delivery cost because there will be increased number of deliveries since we will be purchasing materials at the time of need. So increase in delivery costs because of increased number of deliveries. Those are all for our comments. Now we need to make a final decision. So personally, I would advise the directors that they should switch to a GIT method of inventory control, because there will be less chance of goods being damaged or goods being out of date. Let's write it down. The directors should switch to a GIT method of inventory control because there will be less chance of out-of-date items. That is all for the sixth part as well as this entire question. If you found this video useful, make sure that you like the video and leave a comment below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you do not miss any of these videos in the future. Thank you.